All right, guys, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I trade NFTs with technicals only. So none of the hype, FOMO, and FUD from trading using Twitter or Discord. This is trading with technicals only. I'm going to be showing you the charts and the figures and the indicators that I look at to help me decide whether to jump in or out of an NFT. So earlier this week, I tweeted about one of the trades that I took, and I'm always tweeting the NFTs that I get in and out of. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at DarrenTheDegen. I tweeted I made $570 in 4 hours holding an NFT bought purely on technicals. And a couple of people asked on this tweet, hey, well done. I feel I need to know more about the technicals. Please do a video. And can you please elaborate what signals did you look for in the chart? So that's what I'm going to be explaining to you in this video. And like I just said, if you're not following me on Twitter, follow me at DarrenTheDegen. That's where I share all of the NFTs that I jump in and out of, usually in real time, if not very, very shortly after I make those trades. So I'm going to be using a platform for this. There are many NFT tools you can use. If you're not using NFT tools and you're trading NFTs, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. More and more people are starting to use tools, and you need these to give yourself a reasonable chance of succeeding against other retail traders. So I'm not going to tell you what tool to use. I'm just going to show you the one I'm using. But the key thing I want you to take away from this video is the technicals that I'm looking at, the things that I'm looking at from any NFT, putting everything else aside. So none of that hype or FOMO or FUD, putting it all to one side and just focus purely on the technicals. I'm making a decision based on those. So I don't really care too much about the artwork, who's behind the NFT, what anyone's saying on Twitter. I just want to look at the technicals, because for me, I'm just looking to hold these short terms, usually in and out on the same day, and it suits my current trading strategy. And you need to adjust this to suit your trading strategy depending on what you want to do. So I spend most of my time when I'm trading NFTs just hovering on this page. So this is a trending page and it shows me all of the most active NFTs currently being traded. So this is currently on the 15-minute view. Quite often I'll pop this down to the 5-minute view. And the reason I do this, I want to see what NFTs have activity and volume at the moment. I don't want to be jumping into an NFT where there's no trading going on. What I want to do is find an NFT where all of a sudden, or a consistent stream of volume and activity is coming into that NFT. So there's a chance that the NFT will go up in value, and then I can exit and there's plenty of liquidity. So that's why I spend my time here. And this updates pretty much in real time. You can see the amount of trades going through. Now, I'm not going to put specific numbers on this as to what is a good number. You'll get this yourself as you spend time doing this, and you'll start to get a feel for what works and what doesn't work in the market. But generally from 5 minutes, none of these would interest me. I'd be looking for much higher volume and activity for me before I dived into any of these NFTs. Sometimes I'll pop it onto the 15-minute view as well, to see what kind of has been going on recently, because there will be lulls between any amounts of activity. But the key thing I focus on initially is activity, because I want liquidity if I'm going to be getting in and out of an NFT in the same day. So let's say I was looking at this and I found a particular NFT that I like the look of based on an activity perspective. I would click through into it. The other thing I would do before I click through, actually, I would have a quick glance at the average price, because if you've only got a small budget, there's no point clicking into ones where the floor price is maybe 1 ETH or multiple ETH. For me at the moment, I'm probably looking at any NFTs up to about half an ETH. So that's what I would focus on. Maybe even this at 0.6, I'd have a click and see what's going on. But this one here is quite cheap, just about 0.01 ETH. So let's click through to that and see what's going on. And let me talk you through the technicals as I see them. Then hopefully you guys can use them as part of your trading strategy. So the first thing I do is go through these figures at the top. I look at supply first. Now I'm seeing more NFTs perform better when they have slightly smaller supplies. So the rule of thumb a couple of months ago, or even a few weeks ago, was 10,000 supply was the standard. Whereas now we're seeing a lot more, kind of between maybe 4,000 to 8,000. So at 6,969, it's a good number. It's a reasonable number, and I'm seeing NFTs with this sort of supply at the moment doing okay. So supply ticks the box. Now, what I would also do to validate this is actually click on the Opensea link and make sure this is actually sold out. Because what I don't want to do is find a project with a small supply, but it's because it didn't mint out fully, or it's in pre-sale, which isn't a problem. I just need to be aware of that so I can make the right decisions. So in the description, these guys have got a total of 6969 unique XMFers will be created. So that is the correct supply. So from a supply perspective, that all checks out. The next thing I would look at is the royalty. So this is the amount you will spend when you come to sell this NFT. So you need to factor this in from the very start, because I'd always recommend people know their target exit price before they buy into an NFT. So you need to take into account this royalty. Now, by default, most of us will be selling on Opensea. So there's at least 2.5% going to Opensea. And then there'll be a royalty usually from the project creator as well. And that can range from kind of 2.5% up to 10% at the moment. And if you hover over here, it says here, this includes both the 2.5% Opensea royalty and the collection owner royalty as well. So this owner will be charging 6.9%, I believe, if I've done the maths right there. I prefer to avoid ones that are kind of 10% or 12.5%. So 7.5% down is good. 9.4%, it's okay. I'd prefer to see a bit lower. But pretty much just remember, you've got to deduct this from your overall selling price. So whatever you target, remember, you're going to be taking off the best part of 10% in fees for Opensea and royalties. The next thing I'd look at is the sales. So you've got three stats here: 10-minute sales, 1 hour sales, 1 day sales. So the thing that would have obviously got me through to this NFT in the first place is the most recent sales, so the 10-minute sales or the 5 or the 15 minutes as I showed you on the previous page. I'd also then be looking at the 1 hour sales to make sure there's been sustained activity. If there hasn't, what I'd be doing is watching this. So I'd be watching to see how this unfolds over the next 10 to 15 minutes, because sometimes you'll see a project has no activity, then a whale will come in and maybe sweep 10, 20 or even 30 or more NFTs, and that provides a big spike on the activity graph, and that'll get me interested. But then no one else comes in. So that's why I'll watch it to see if more traffic comes in before going any further. So yes, you'd like to see some hourly sales and some daily sales, but the most important thing is you're seeing consistent sales keep coming in after you've clicked through to the listing. So I've been on this page a few minutes now, and we can see here that we've still got sales coming through 3 minutes ago, a minute ago, a few seconds ago. So that's a promising sign so far. The 1 hour floor I completely ignore. I'll come back to that in a moment. The next thing I'd look at is listings. So this is the amount of supply that's actually listed for sale at the moment. Now, I prefer this figure to be around 10%, preferably less than the overall supply. If it's a huge figure, that normally means really, really thick floors that we need to break through to make any progress with the floor price. So we've got 6969 supply, 738 listed, so just over 10%, so it's not really a major problem. This would be okay, but the lower the figure this goes, the better. And sometimes you can just sit here and watch this figure. This will update in real time, and if you see this starting to go down consistently, that's a very promising sign, as it means the supply and demand ratio is starting to tip into favor of demand, and that means eventually there'll be a supply shock and the floor price will start to rise. So the actual current floor price is shown here, and this is in real time. This will update a lot quicker than you'll see on Opensea. So if you see the floor price is different on Opensea, trust what you're seeing here, because the floor price on Opensea usually lags quite considerably. So those are the first stats that I go through. Then the next thing I'll do is look here on the left-hand side, which is listings being created, again in real time, and then the trades in real time. And what I'm looking to see here is basically a preference for more trades versus listings at the same sort of price point. So I don't mind if there's 10 trades and 10 new listings, providing the listings are a higher floor price. So if we look at the most recent trades at the moment, we can see there's actually quite a range to this, which is actually a really, really promising sign. Often if you just seeing the floor being bought up, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best sign. It's not a bad sign, but certainly seeing this where people are buying higher than the floor price, so the floor price is at 0.09, seeing people buy above this is a really promising sign. The other thing I would look at as well is what people are listing at. So what really you want to be seeing is less people listing at around the floor price that is currently being sold. So if I just, let me just put a max rank on, sorry, a max price on this at the moment. So if we say 0.09 floor price, let's put a 0.1 and see what is being listed recently. So we can see in the last hour, so other than the last 4 minutes, in the last 4 minutes there's been 3 listings below 0.10, and then in the last 2 hours or 3 hours you can see what is going on. But if we look from a sales perspective, we should see that a lot of these 0.9s are getting soaked up in the last 10, 11 minutes, 12, 13 minutes. So we can see here the floor is being bought up, which is a really, really promising sign. The floor is being bought up, and not many are being listed at the floor price. Most of them are being listed above the floor price. So that's a really promising sign. And this is reflected in this graph. If we take this down to the 1 day view, we can see the floor price is definitely trending up in the moment, because that supply demand ratio is starting to be stacked in favor of demand, and supply is starting to come down. So again, we can see these new listings that have just come through, 0.14, 0.2, and people are buying up the cheaper listings. So promising all round. And actually, I've actually been in and out of this project earlier this week when the floor price was a lot lower, but this does certainly show signs of a project that could be interesting. Now, going on to this graph, let me move this graph up a bit so you guys can see it. This is what I would look at next because I want to see growth. It doesn't have to be an upward trend. It can just be kind of a curve bottoming out, just as you'd see on a traditional crypto chart. And this is what I try to see this as. This is my charting method. So let's go to the 7-day view. We can see this has been in a steady uptrend all week, really. I got in, like I say, earlier in this week, in and out one of the days, made a small bit of profit. We've been trending up over the past couple of days. And what is good is when you start to see these dots further up showing that people are buying up the more expensive ones based on their ranks. And by default, the outliers, so ones that are a lot above the kind of the mean average, they're hidden. So if we turn these on, we can see there have been some ones purchased at slightly higher prices as well. So this is what I'd look to see, especially on the higher value projects. So something like half an Ethereum, I'll be looking to see purchases at 2, 3, 4, 5 Ethereum to show that the whales are coming in and buying up the expensive ones. And with the floor price at 0.1, I think actually what we're seeing here, this spike in activity here with a number of people buying well above the floor, is a very, very promising sign. So it'll be interesting to see by the time you guys watch this video, probably tomorrow, so in about 36 hours by the time this video is released, to see where the floor price of XMFers is, because it's currently 0.9, and this activity suggests not necessarily that we're going to be much higher by tomorrow, but it's certainly suggesting we're going to head up in the short term. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a spike to maybe 0.15, maybe even 0.2, but probably before a pullback and then some digestion of that move, as maybe it solidifies a bit higher support than it currently has. So I'd certainly look at this chart, and I'll show you another example or a couple more examples in a minute to give you an idea of how these charts can be powerful. Now on to one of the final metrics that I look at. Let me just hide the webcam here. This graph here, the group size, this is the floor thickness. And this is really, really important, as what you want to know when you get into a trade is how many NFTs need to be sold before you can actually make a decent return. So if you're jumping in at 0.09, you might be targeting, for example, 0.18. You're looking to make a 2x. So what I want to know, how many NFTs need to be sold to give me a chance of getting there? So I go into this and do it by 0.01 rather than 0.05, so it shows it in a more linear fashion. And you can see here, if we hover over 0.2, there needs to be a cumulative sales of 390 of these sold, which is an okay number. It's not bad. I've seen normally when you're looking at a 2x, I look to see maybe 200 to 300, so it's not too bad. Sometimes you'll see 500 or 600 for a 2x, and I think that's too many because it's not just 390 NFTs that need to be sold to get there. A lot of these NFTs are going to be bought and relisted during this process, so it's probably more like double that figure. But certainly that isn't high enough to put me off, and it's one I would consider. But you can see the thickest floor at the moment is between 0.1 and 0.11, and if we clear 0.11, I would expect things to move quite quickly up towards the 0.2 mark. So you might decide to hang about until this bar here gets a lot smaller. So rather than jumping in at 0.09, which is what we're currently at, decide to miss out on a tiny bit, wait until we sell through 0.1 and half of these, or even till we're down to here. Then you might decide to jump in. So you've reduced your risk a bit further, but then you might decide to still bail out before 0.2. So looking for a 2x, maybe just below a 2x, but you've mitigated your risk. But remember, you'll be taking the best part of a 10% royalty hit. So if you do buy at, for example, 0.11 and you sell at 0.2, you're going to get 0.18 back, probably some gas as well. So there's not a huge amount of profit to be made when you take into account all of those factors. That's why I always aim for at least a 2x, because the time you take royalty and gas into account, it really does eat into your profits. And just finally, on this right-hand side, you do have rarity ranks, which give you an example of how much value the ranks have for this particular project. Now, if I'm scraping one off the floor, well, I say off the floor, I normally aim for a rank of around 1,000 or lower. Maybe 1,100 or 1,200 is fine as well, as I find they're generally easier to resell, especially if the floor price comes flying back down, and people generally buy up the rarer ranks a bit quicker if you're priced against ones with much higher ranks. And then just a bonus thing at the bottom, and this is the gas, and I've touched on the gas before. Make sure you take this into account when working out your calculations. So if I decided I want to buy one of these at the floor price, so let me just pop the webcam back on so you guys can see me. On this left-hand side, I'll sort this by price. What is the cheapest one? 0.09. I'd click on the buy button, and then MetaMask would do the calculations for me. And then I could actually see what the estimated gas would be. So at the moment, the gas is going to probably add another 0.01 ETH to the overall cost. So if I bought in now at 0.09, my overall cost would be 0.10. So the gas is quite low at the moment. So do these calculations before you jump into any of these projects. So that's how I'm using technicals to trade NFTs at the moment. Let me just show you another project, probably the one actually I tweeted about earlier on in the week. So let me just fire this. So there we go, made 574 hours. What was the name of the project? So it's the Weirdo Ghost Gang. So let me take this and I'll explain why I jumped into this project. I'll pop it into NFT Nerds, the Weirdo Ghost Gang here. So let's go to the summary tab this time. I haven't showed you guys the summary. Now the summary tab's good because it shows all of the trades, whereas on the live view, it will only show you the last 2,500 on this chart here. So go to summary to see all of the trades, and this takes you back further in the week, however long the project's been going. So I've got this on a 7-day view at the moment. Let me just put this onto hourly bars so you can see the volume a bit clearer. So what I was doing, actually let me take off outliers so this makes this a bit more visible. So I think when I tweeted about it, it was actually on the 16th, is that right? Yeah, February the 16th I made this tweet here. So it was the 16th, and I jumped in the morning when we saw this spike in activity, and as I talked about, you can see all of these dots here, which are showing people were buying well above the floor price. So things have been flat. Then we saw the spike in activity and the spike in volume. This is when I got interested and jumped into this project. And I got in at 0.3 Ethereum. We then rode it all the way up and it was really, really flying. We got to about 0.6 and it started to pull back down. Now my target was a 2x, but I ended up selling at just, I think it was about 0.52, something like that. So I made a decent return. And you can see it was all done based purely on technicals, activity picking up, volume picking up, seeing that the whales are coming in buying the more expensive ones as well. After seeing sustained, a good solid base to push on from, and then I got out. I didn't want to be too greedy, as I know very little about these projects. I'm not looking to hold them for days or weeks. It's literally get in, hold them for that splurge of activity, try and get out at the right time. And then if you want to get back into it, you can do. Just wait to see what plays out on the graph. Look for where you find the support again, see what happens, give it a bit of time. So I could have got back in a couple of times here. It's gone back up a few times. It's starting to die off now, but certainly there was a couple of opportunities over those 2 or 3 days. If you'd have got in at the troughs, rode them up the peaks and got back out. But I'm led mainly by activity and volume and lots of the other metrics that I just talked you through on this previous page here. So that's how I'm currently trading NFTs at the moment. If you found that useful, I'd really appreciate it. Hit that like button. If you want to see the NFTs that I'm getting in and out of, make sure you follow me on Twitter at DarrenTheDegen. And if you want to see more from me, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you want to see me actually use the tool I've just shown you and find out more about that tool, I'm going to pop up a tutorial in front of me now showing you how you can use that tool to buy and sell NFTs.